Hello and welcome to the Family History Show by Findmypast. My name is Liam from the social media team here, and we are once again joined by my esteemed colleague, Findmypast research specialist, Jen Baldwin. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Liam. How are you?
I'm good. It's no offense to Ellie, but it's great to be back on live with you. I feel like I don't think I've been on live without you since about June or something. I looked at the calendar the other day. So it's
Has it been
good.
that long? I feel like it was more recent than that, but maybe I just enjoy it so much that it feels like yesterday.
We've been on, but me otherwise without you, I
Oh, okay.
think Ellie's had
Yeah.
special guests and I've been kicked off. I've kicked Ellie off with
All
you.
right.
I've been on holiday. People have been off. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's been all over the place. But we're here again. We'll see. I'll see what I can rope you into in 4 weeks' time and
That
kick
sounds about
Ellie
right.
off again.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
offense. But as always, let us know in the comments where you are tuning in from, how the weather is looking, what you have planned for the weekend. And judging by the title, you will know what we are here to talk about today. So get your early thoughts on Was Justice Served in the chat as well. And we're just going to dive in behind the scenes a little bit. We'll give you a bit of background in a minute after we do the usual hellos. Starting off, Jen, how is the weather in Colorado today?
I was just doing the conversion. It's supposed to be 65 in Colorado today at my house, so that's about 18 Celsius. Um, It's slightly cloudy and overcast. But can I just tell you, and I know that there are people who will not know what I'm talking about, but you will, Liam. I have a fantastic weekend coming up. We have
Oh, yeah.
the marching band will be at the football game tonight, which I'm very
Oh,
excited about because my daughter is in marching band and I volunteer a lot. And then tomorrow we have our preview performance, which is a chance to kind of for parents and family members to come in and watch the show before we start going to competitions. And the show
nice.
this year is really, really cool, and I'm just really excited about it. And I love hanging out with these kids. So, uh, band weekend. Oh, it's band
Fun.
season. I love it.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know yet, Jen's child is in the band, which to us in the UK is a very foreign concept. But if you've watched
Yes.
any Blue Mountain State or anything like that, you will know about the bands and the football games and the American football games, I should say, and the sheer size of them and the
Yeah, and
performances they
so
put on.
if you are curious about this and you Google it, do not watch a college band because it's a very different thing. Don't watch university bands. You got to watch high school level competitive marching bands. That's two totally different deals.
It's a different, and then yeah, Jen
It's
always
very different.
posts videos from her child's performances and from ones in the area, and yeah, it's an eye opener. But they're always just like I say, coming from the UK, it is just such a insane concept. Like when we played football games in high school, like people just got taken out of class to go and play football in the field at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. No one was even there to watch it. So whenever I see like high school football games and the bands and all this kind of stuff, it is just
Yeah,
it's insane. But I would
it's
recommend
good
having
fun.
a look at it because it is, like I say, an eye opener, and yeah, just the concepts that they come up with and stuff is just crazy. So definitely have a look. I feel like we've got quite similar weather across the board. I was going to say it's sunny, but it's just gone cloudy in Dundee. But temperature wise, we're roughly the same as Colorado today. So much and such the same. We've got rain in Enfield with Karen. We've got dull West Yorkshire with Kim. Drizzle in Edinburgh. That's probably not far away. I'm going even further north in Scotland after I finish up work today. So it's going to be rain in there as well. Shock horror. Sunny, windy Lincolnshire, sunny Stoke-on-Trent, windy Essex. Lincolnshire sounds all right, warm and dry. That's about as well as you can hope for in September, I think. Sometimes this kind of awkward in between the seasons sort of thing. So, yeah, about as well as you can hope for. And it's already getting so dark at night as well, like 8 o'clock, and it's almost pitch dark again, which is just
Jeez.
so depressing
Here
after
we go.
like summer. And then you think about, oh, in 2 months it's going to be pitch dark at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's going to be fun. But we will still be here, so you don't need to worry about the weather because every week, every 2 weeks on Friday we will be here, and it never rains on Fridays live. So you can always come and
That's
join
true.
us.
Yeah.
Usually I say it never rains in the pub, but for work purposes, we'll say it never rains on Friday Live. And then you go to the pub after Friday's Live and it's not raining there either. So everyone's happy. But moving on, less about my weekend plans. We are here to talk about Was Justice Served? I'm sure some of you will have seen this. People have been in touch. I've seen some of the loyal audience being in touch and commenting on the posts and everything like that. But for those who don't know, Jen, can you give them a bit of an elevator pitch, a bit of a background? What are we talking about today? What is Was Justice Served?
So Was Justice Served is everybody's favorite podcast, actually. That's what it is. It is a podcast, and it is delving into the stories of historical true crime, and obviously presented by Findmypast. I am very privileged and very pleased to be a co-host along with David Wilson, who's a well-known criminologist in the UK. And we got together and started filming this podcast 3 years ago. We're in the middle of our second season, releasing that out on all the platforms where you get your podcasts, wherever you prefer to listen. And the whole platform is really cool, right? Because it's roughly an hour-ish, 40, some of them are a little shorter, some are a little longer, but it takes one crime from history, and really we just explore it from as many different angles as we can. We talk about it from a genealogical perspective, from a historical perspective, from a crime perspective. We talk about race and class and gender and all of those issues that were very much prevalent in most of the crimes are from the Victorian era, very much prevalent in that period, but also still resonate today. So it's true crime plus history plus genealogy. It's like everybody's perfect. Perfect thing.
Everybody's perfect. Kim agrees. We've got the best podcast ever.
Aww,
it doesn't get much higher praise than that. And Georgia also says the first series was excellent. So you'll need to tune in to series 2. But yeah, as Georgia says, as you alluded to there, it is the second series. So for those who maybe missed series 1, can you give them a bit of a recap, how it came about? What was series 1 like? What was the experience like?
So this all started really in a brainstorm session. Basically, we were talking about themes across historical newspapers and how the impact of researching those themes could be felt or seen or explored by the genealogy community. So we were talking about things like the suffrage movement and the royal family and World War I, and all of those things obviously resonate, but we wanted something that was just a little bit different. But we also wanted something that would appeal to people who don't do genealogy, right? And we're like, okay, so what are really popular things in the world of podcasts? And true crime came up. And then someone actually said podcast, and we all went, oh yeah, maybe that's the right angle. Like that might be it, right? So how do we introduce the richness of historical newspapers to kind of the average everyday audience? And the answer seems to be true crime, right? It's a really popular genre and has been for a very long time, right? They've been doing true crime for decades and decades. And we were thinking about what's the right platform for true crime? And podcast was definitely discussed, but it was one of those things where you could listen on the tube, right? You could listen at your lunch break. You could do it. You could listen while you're. You can listen on the train. You can listen, while you're I don't know, taking a walk or walking the dog or whatever. And we just thought that, maybe this is a really good way to reach an audience that we don't typically reach, right? Genealogists and family historians know how amazing newspapers are. And I know everybody on this chat now today, loves newspapers. Oh, you all know how much I love newspapers, but this was a way to really reach just kind of a brand new audience. So that was kind of how it all got going and started. We decided on a co-host, and we brought in David Wilson, and he's amazing. He's incredibly intelligent. His depth of knowledge is vast, but he's also incredibly charming and just a really great guy. Deep down, he's just a genuinely nice person.
He's Scottish, isn't he? What do you expect?
You wouldn't expect anything else from someone from Scotland. Absolutely not. So the first series was, and believe it or not, David and I had never met before we walked into the studio to record the first episode. And we sat down and we started talking and trying to get to know each other a little bit, and we just hit it off. And it was it was just fun because it was just like a mutual respect for each other's expertise, but also like just this really fun banter back and forth, which is great. And I think that comes across. I hope it comes across.
Yeah.
We started series 1 with a guest on the episode 1, David Olashoga. And we talked about a case that actually came from his own family history. And I think one of the things that struck me when we were recording that was he told us, and he has said now a couple of times, that it's the first time that he'd ever talked about the case outside of his own family environment.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of sitting down with 2 other historians and researchers was a really kind of deep process for him. It was the first time that he'd really had the chance to kind of see it from those different perspectives and have our layers of expertise and knowledge added in and kind of explore those details. So the first episode is really poignant and powerful because it comes from his family. And it's something that he, admitted in the podcast, like it impacts him today still and has impacted the generation since. And so that was a really powerful way to start. And then David and I recorded 5 or 6 other episodes together and just had a blast. It was great. It's honestly, it's one of the most fun things I've ever done. Like, I still, there are moments, Liam, really, where I'm so like, is this life? This is, how did I, what? But it's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. And like you say about being the first time you met and the chemistry and everything like that, it is amazing because obviously you're much more familiar now, but going back to series 1, episode 1, even with the dynamic of having the guest on there as well, like you say, the chemistry between the 2 of you is just great, and the angles that you bring with the history, the genealogy, the criminology side of things as well. And I will say for anyone in the chat, if you're not familiar with the name David Wilson, if you look him up, you will 100% recognize him. He is on a lot of TV programs over here. He pops up quite a lot because he is so good at what he does. So you'll definitely recognize him.
He's also a prolific author. I will just give him a free pitch. He has a new book coming out. I'm going to get the title slightly wrong, but it's like the history of modern England in 20 murders or 20 crimes or something like that. But I have now read a handful of his works. And this is absolutely my favorite. Pain and Retribution. It's a short history of British prisons, 1066 to the present. This is the only book I've ever found about the history of prisons in Britain. And it's not very long. It's pretty short. It's an easy read, but it is full of really incredible detail and context. So if you have an ancestor that ended up in prison or was a convict or was involved in a court case or had anything to do with the jail system, get this book. You're welcome, David. It's a really good book.
And it also brings us expertly on to our question of the week, because I did not mention this at the start, but someone did put it in. So a nice segue talking about if you have ancestors that were in any way involved in prisons or the legal system. We do have a question of the week, and it is, do you have a criminal ancestor and what is their story? So let us know in the comments what your criminal ancestor stories are, and we can come back to them later on in the show. I was actually going to throw you a curveball question because not to break the fourth wall or anything, but I do give Jen a heads up what we're going to speak about on these. But you kind of already answered it in your wrap up there, because I was going to say, like you mentioned, true crime podcasts are the talk of the town. They top most of the charts and the podcast charts and everything. I was going to say, what is the difference between Was Justice Served and your normal true crime? But you have we've touched upon it there with, like you say, the genealogy angle with the criminology angle as well. Would you say that is sort of
I think that's probably the main difference. I also like, and I know I'm biased, obviously, but I think it's cool that the team at Findmypast, like, pulls together the collections of the newspaper articles that we talk about, and we make them available on the website for the podcast so that people can really read through them. I think that whole concept of, like, answering the question, was justice served, is actually what we're trying to accomplish. But it's not just up to us. Like, it is intended to be an invitation for everybody who's listening to actually engage with the content and go, I know. I think I disagree with David on this point, or I don't think they, they miss this detail in the newspaper story or whatever. Like, I think it's really cool that we provide the source material essentially so that people who want to explore further can. I don't know that I've seen that with any other podcast. I don't listen to a lot of true crime. I'll be honest. My podcast time is pretty taken up by history. Like right now I'm in the middle of a World War I series. It's really long. But I've not seen that with any other, some podcasts do like these long show notes and they give you lists of references and books and, citations and things, but I haven't seen it with true crime. And I really like that part. So I think that is one other little angle that sets us apart.
That is, yeah, absolutely. And for those who don't know, as Jen said, you have a say in this as well. You don't have to agree with Jen and David, although personally I always would, of course, never disagree with Jen. But if you do disagree with Jen, then you can let us know on the page that I've posted in the comments there. Every week we update that with a new episode with some notes about the episode. You can get a link to the episode on Spotify there. We have a collection as well, newspaper collection for everything that Jen and David speak about. And importantly, there is a poll as well. So if you do think what's justice served or not with the verdict of the case and with the evidence that Jen and David present, you can let us know on the poll there as well. And I just noticed on the poll, I really like that there's a I'm not sure option.
Yeah,
I like that as well. So if you don't know, you don't know, but still let us know that you don't know.
It's
so
tricky,
you can say
like
that.
putting yourself in the place of a juror, basically. But in some cases, like 200 years after the fact. So it's not easy because you have to separate what you know and think today in like our modern sense versus what they would have seen or how they perceived the information in their like from their perspective. So it's a real like, I don't know. I'm really conflicted every time. Like at the end of every episode, we pick on each other and we're like, what do you think? And what do you think? And I am constantly like, they're definitely guilty. But no, wait, but what about this? And like my brain's just going a million miles an hour when we get to that part because I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard as well because you are kind of using the same evidence that the jury had as well. If you're using things like the newspaper reports that are reporting on the case from the perspective of the outcome almost. So like I say, it's hard. Whereas like a case that's ongoing today, you'll see stuff online, you'll kind of have your own opinions, you'll know the context and everything. But like you say, you don't know what people in the area maybe knew the person and thought, oh, she wasn't like that, that wouldn't have happened kind of thing. But like you said, you couldn't only take the newspapers or the family tree's word for it sort of thing. You don't have that perspective on it.
And there's some cases that after, especially season 1, there's one in particular in season 1 that we recorded. And then I used it in a lecture as a case study. And I actually found more newspaper articles, like 20 years after the crime and the original case. And I keep wanting to do a follow-up, like short episode on it, but now I'm like, oh, well, I have like way more information than the jury did because I have this perspective of like this guy's entire life. And I'm like, oh, now he's definitely guilty. Like, like for sure he was guilty.
I know. And like you say there about the context of it, the historical context, one of my favorite things about the episodes is because of David's expertise is when he kind of says, well, today it's like this concept in law, but that obviously just didn't exist back then. So I love that sort of context of it where he's like, if it was a court case today, then this case would be referred to and this would have happened, blah, blah, blah. And I love that sort of that angle on it as well, which is why it's so good and why David is such a good co-host as well. So as I say, we are just over halfway through. Episode 5 came out on Tuesday. There are 3 more episodes to go.
I think it's 2.
2 or
is it
3?
2 or 3.
There's episodes to come. Definitely 2, maybe 3.
We should know this.
Tune in the last week of September and you'll find out if there are 3 to go or not. We should definitely know this, but we don't. You of all people should know this. You were there.
Probably know this. If you follow the podcast, you'll just get a notification on your phone when a new episode drops.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Surprise. There's episodes to come. We're 5 episodes in. We know that for sure. Going on, I guess it applies to series 1 as well, but going off historical cases, there are obviously thousands, millions of cases to possibly choose from. So when you're doing 6 cases for episode 1, 7 or 8 for episode 1, 6 cases for series 1, 7 or 8 for series 2, how do you go about picking the cases? Like where do you even start for something like that?
Yeah, so the exploratory process is actually pretty much never ends, right? So like I'm always looking for possible cases to use. So right now, for example, I'm in the middle of doing a lot of World War I research, but while I'm in the newspapers, I'm browsing headlines and just like, is that an interesting case? Is that an interesting case? So like the list of potential cases gets longer and longer. We also get people from the community who submit their stories, and that's fantastic. Because it really gives us a chance to delve into something that's actually really personal. And there's someone out there that's listening that is really invested. And that's exciting, right? To be able to know that like there's someone in the audience who's going to listen to this podcast and just and possibly help them think about the case or the crime or the people in a different way, which is impactful, right? Like as a researcher, that's what I want. I want to leave an impact on the people who read my work. So that's a part of it. It's just that like exploratory process of just like finding the case in the first place. Then when we really sit down to start getting into what are we going to cover in this season, we're really thinking about the title of the podcast itself. It was Justice Served. That's a genuine question. So each case needs to have just enough intrigue, just enough twists and turns to really have listeners kind of going like, I thought he's that guy did it. And then 5 seconds later being like, oh wait, now I'm not sure. So like there has to be enough like plot twists basically for it to resonate with the audience. And that audience is of course really important to us. So there has to be, or that we want there to be a blend of locations, different types of eras, different class groups, different society groups, a lot. And we see this in season 2 even more, is different types of crime. So we're trying to kind of mix things up a little bit. And they obviously all need to be well documented in historical records and newspapers. Like that's pretty key, because we can't do the research. There's this article. I found this article like, I don't know, 18 months ago. I still want to do something with it. And it's something about this couple who is found guilty of baby farming. And it's like a big issue, and it's a societal issue, but there's only one article so far that I have identified about this particular case, and I couldn't find anything else on it. So that's why we haven't covered it in the podcast, because we can't build an entire episode off of one newspaper clipping, although that's an interesting challenge. So there's got to be enough documentation for us to actually dig into it and tell an interesting story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then going on the research itself, you've touched on obviously newspapers is a sort of big part of the research process, but where else are you looking for this? Obviously you're doing
anywhere
family trees, you're doing everything. Would you say it's quite similar to your standard sort of genealogical research?
Well, there's elements of kind of standard methodology for sure. And we do as much of a full like case study as we can, considering all angles of genealogy and history. But I do think it is more, there's a lot more social history involved, especially in the script writing part, right? There's periods where we're like, oh, she was, she can't testify because of coverture. Well, what does that actually mean? And how do we explain that in a really effective and efficient way, but like but have it flow with the podcast. So, and yeah, spoiler alert, we are using a script for a lot of it. There's a lot of banter. There's a lot of just like, David and I just kind of saying things out of our brains, but but the storyline is scripted. So because there's a lot of facts and there's a lot of dates and names and places, and it's hard to remember them all. So when we build the script out, we do build in moments for us to kind of pause and explore a particular issue, a topic. So there's a lot of background research behind those kind of social issues, just to make sure that we get everything right and it's all correct. When it comes to the research, I absolutely must do a shout out for Karen. I saw her in the comments earlier, so we're going to put her on the screen. Here she is. Highly recommend the podcast. Of course she does. Karen has been instrumental. We started working with her on research for the podcast as just kind of supporting the objective and the mission, and working with her and collaborating with her as a professional has been an absolute joy. And I'll be honest, one of the reasons that I knew that she would be a good fit for this research is because she's so involved on Facebook Live with us. And this is how I've gotten to know Karen a little bit. So I really just wanted to give her a shout out. She's been incredibly professional, incredibly thorough. Her research reports are excellent. And she's just an amazing researcher. And she is, of course, centrally located for all those archives that I can't get to, right? Like TNA and the British Library. Not an easy way for me to get over there. And she's just been fantastic. So huge shout out to Karen for her support of the podcast. She's worked on a couple of different episodes, and it's just been phenomenal to work with her.
Yeah, and like I said about the sort of community element with some of the cases being community sourced as well, it's even cooler to know that members of our community, like say people that you met through the community, are involved so much behind the scenes as well. And big shout out to Karen for all her help.
It's exciting for us as a company too to know that our community has it's not just about, doing these and like, oh, we have new records, right? That it really is a community, and it's really focused on getting to know people and getting to know their stories and their families, and then working together as in a collaborative fashion. I think it's fantastic, right? It's the same with how we partner with family history societies and, all sorts of other aspects of the genealogy space, but it's great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And like I say, it's lovely knowing maybe people in the chat one day could also be researching projects, or we've got a lot of question of the week responses. Maybe one of these will be the next case.
Maybe one of these will be another one.
If we do another series, one of these question of the weeks might find its way onto there. But yeah, another shout out to another researcher as well. Ellie has joined us in the comments and says episode 3 is her favorite, but she's not sure why. And we've given enough free promo this episode, Ellie, so we'll just
no, we're giving Ellie credit. She did a lot of research on episode 3.
Only joking. Yeah, big shout out to Ellie as well. It's a community effort, but it's a big effort behind the scenes as well. We've got Maddie involved, Jen obviously involved, Niall and Daisy and Ellie are doing content. Sarah and I are doing the social channels as well. So this is the last free promo, but it's for myself, so I'm going to allow it. Follow Was Justice Served podcast on Instagram and TikTok. We post clips from every episode. We've got some behind the scenes stuff. Jen does some extra stuff for us as well. So yeah, if Ellie is still in the comments, if she can pop a link. But we are at Was Justice Served podcast on Instagram and TikTok. So give us a follow.
I'll be recording more content as soon as we're done with this live. That's what I'm doing next.
We'll have another one. So exactly. Jen always her favorite time of the week is Friday afternoon when I say, so remember that podcast you did 6 months ago and I've clipped up? Do you want to talk about it again?
So, actually, yes, I do.
Yeah, funnily enough.
As a matter of fact.
Yeah, like Ellie says, a lot of people involved from different areas of the business, different areas of the community. So big shout out to everyone. Jen does have the hardest job because she is the face of the podcast, as well as the big research behind it as well, with people like Karen's help and Ellie's help. But yeah, there's a lot goes on behind the scenes. So it's nice that we get here to talk about it, and we're seeing comments that people are enjoying it so much as well. And we've got links to some of the social channels as well. So give us a follow, make me look good. Give us indication that people want to see these 3.
Yeah, I that's actually, and that's the serious bit actually, is we need to know if you guys like it. We need to, because we can see stats like how many people listen and how many people download, but reviews are really, really helpful. And interacting with our social media content is really, really important. So yeah, please do engage, because if you want to see more of what's just served, we need to know that it's working.
Yeah, because like you say, it's podcasts are difficult sometimes to get a range on, because like you say, you can see people have listened or downloaded to the podcast, but there's no sort of direct feedback. People aren't commenting on it in the same way it would if it was a Facebook post or a blog or whatever it might be, kind of thing. So yeah, say nice things in the chat and we'll forward it to the higher ups and we'll get series 3 for you. So some more compliments, we'll collate them. Follow the socials, comment on the socials, download the podcast. Obviously, don't forget to do the most important part. But yeah, like you say, any feedback, good or bad, if there's anything you'd like to see more of, less of, anything at all, let us know, because like we say, it can be hard to gauge feedback on a podcast. I know I, for one, have clicked play on numerous podcasts and Spotify and just been like, what is this? Turning it off. But it's still a play on their listens. But I'm like,
right, totally. Yeah.
Why was that piano music so loud in the background? I hate this.
Yeah, I did that exactly yesterday. I like sat through a 25-minute podcast. I really wanted the content, but like, it was a struggle. It was a struggle to get all the way through. So.
Watch This Is Served isn't like that. You'll love it.
I hope not.
Let us know. No, definitely not. Definitely not. So yeah, so we're talking about obviously the kind of criminology side of things with the criminal ancestors question of the week. Someone as experienced in family history and genealogy as you, did you find yourself, obviously researching cases, you said it is different, although there's some methodology. Did you find yourself sort of picking anything up about researching criminal ancestors specifically? Was there anything that you came across in the Watch This Is Served research that you thought, oh, maybe this applies to this person, I'll need to go back and look in these case filings or anything like that?
I think there's always a learning process somewhere, right? I think I learned something on just about every project I do. I think actually one of the hardest bits of this project for me has really been separating my like modern viewpoint from the historical viewpoint. That's actually been really challenging. And there are some episodes this season in particular where we get kind of into some other crimes besides murder that like it really resonates with today's topic, and the things that people talk about every day, and it feels a little bit like I'm kind of constantly seeing through a different set of eyes, like, oh, that issue, like that's an important issue to me today in my personal life. This is how it was seen 150 years ago. And maybe they weren't quite as close-minded as I thought. Right. And so like I'm picking up some of that, like that just impacts me maybe on a more personal level. From a research perspective, I think it's a continuous, like it has been a continuous reminder that the devil's in the details. Is that an expression in the UK?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. So, and what I mean by that, like, so, when you're researching a big crime that hits the newspapers, you might get the exact same article in 27 different newspapers across the country. But you actually need to take the time to read each individual one, because one of those 27 is going to have a sentence that's slightly different or maybe completely brand new. And if you don't take the time to read through it all, you will miss it. And sometimes that one sentence is really key. So while there's a lot of repetition across newspaper articles, especially with something like a really like juicy crime story, it really is important to sit and make sure that you read and summarize every single article that you find, even though it can be incredibly repetitive. There's value in going through that process and doing that, because there's these little things that get kind of tucked in, and all of a sudden there's an editor in a newspaper somewhere in, I don't know, Shropshire, that is like, I am questioning this because I heard this part of the testimony and I'm not sure, and no one else picks up on it. And so, but that's the nuance, right? That's the little thing that you want. So that's probably the big thing for me from a research perspective, is you have to be really careful about making sure that you're not skipping over things because, oh, that's just the same article that's been printed in 7 other papers.
Yeah, I think that's such a good tip overall as well, because we're so familiar with the syndication, you call it, like articles being syndicated across different newspapers, that, like I say, when you're looking through the search results on Findmypast and you see the sort of brief transcript, they all look identical. So I know I'm guilty of this. I click on one and then I start seeing the results. I'm like, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. I don't need to open them. I've read that before. But like you say, there might just be a change of word in a sentence at the bottom that just flips it on its head. So I think that's such a good tip for any sort of research you're doing in the newspapers like this, because like I say, I'm definitely guilty of that. So
definitely guilty of it, for sure guilty of it. Like, and you know, especially like something that reaches like newspaper sensationalism, it might be sensational for like a week, maybe two. So and then they moved on to the next thing, right? Or it could be something that carries over months or even years. But if you're looking at an event that spans like a 2 to 4 week period, there's going to be a lot of newspaper articles packed into a short amount of time, and that process kind of almost makes it, in a way, even more interesting, because you can literally go day by day to see how the case was evolving and what new information was coming out, or some newspaper reporter went to the scene of the crime and found a neighbor that is now suddenly a new witness, and they may not even make it into the case, into the court, right? Like, they may not be someone that gets brought in to testify, but the newspaper has found some new witness and some new angle and perspective. So it's really a mix of kind of crime records and kind of standard historical documentation mixed with like this idea that newspapers really caught on to the true crime genre in the Victorian era. And this was a huge selling point for them, right? They made a lot of money when there's a big story like this. So, because they're selling more papers, because everybody wants to know what's happening. So there's this component of like the newspapers doing their own research. And of course, in that period, they didn't really have a lot of like crime scene tape, right? It wasn't like restricted as it is in a lot of cases today. So you even see instances where like editors have actually gone into the house where the crime was committed and done their own evaluation, because it's just like sitting there and it's open and there's not really a lot of like security or like preservation of the crime scene, those kind of things that we think about today. So you're like suddenly reading this newspaper article and it's just like the routine facts, and then all of a sudden it was, well, I went to the crime scene today and saw for myself the bloody footprint. You're like, whoa, what? How? But then it's like, okay, now you have to, now you're stuck in, and now you know too that that's a newspaper title that's going to dig into that crime in a really, like, they are really into this one. So keep that newspaper title on your radar, and when you're researching, make sure that you're going back to it a lot, right? Because they're clearly invested in the story.
I know a lot of newspaper reporters' heads just exploded at the thought of them just being able to walk freely about a crime scene and just no white tents, no tape at the door, no 24/7 surveillance in the crime scene or anything. Just insane, but it makes for good reporting for you doing your research. So
totally,
I guess it's all right. And they didn't
very convenient. Years later,
they weren't really doing the whole fingerprints and DNA back then either. So I guess it didn't make too much of a difference really as to who picked up the fire poker, how many newspaper reporters were walking all over the place with their footprints in. But an interesting concept anyway. So we've touched on your wonderful co-hosts, David. He has had a lot of flowers here today. I was going to ask you about him now, but we've given him, as I say, we're cutting off the free promo after the socials got plugged. So we're giving him no free promo, but I will ask you about the special guest. You touched on having the other David in episode 1 of series 1, and you had the wonderful Rav Wilding as the special guest for the episode 1 of series 2. So how was that working with another special guest and doing a different kind of special guest episode?
Rav Wilding was a totally different experience, right? Because he's not a historian. He was in the Metropolitan Police for many years, and then he's kind of turned into this TV personality, and he does television shows. And I don't even remember. Crime Watch, is that the right title?
Crime Watch,
the things I can't see or watch over here. But he again was just fantastic to work with. He, again, another really intelligent individual who draws on his years of experience, but also just so easy to converse with, and very charming and very off the cuff kind of comments that make the recording process really easy. And I think probably Rav brought my favorite moment so far of this whole project. He's the one who created the moment. Are you ready to move into this story? Rav was great when we were recording the first episode of this season. We're talking about this guy this woman who gets murdered, and the main suspect has a plasterer's hammer. And I'm about to give away stuff in the podcast, so if you haven't listened, make sure, I don't know, mute it for a minute or something. We'll signal when we're done. But spoiler alert, he comes across, and suddenly Rav just announces that before he joined the police force, he apprenticed as a plasterer. And he knows all about these plaster hammers and the tools and the history of plaster. And David Wilson and I were both just in tears. We were laughing so hard. I think some of that got cut from the footage, but I almost fell out of my chair, genuinely, because they didn't have armrests. It's a very small chair. I was just what? This is insane. So that was, that's the kind of stuff that happens. It's just very organic and natural. And there's no other way to do that except for it to just let it happen, right? There's no script or prompting that. It's a very natural thing. And he clearly had held that information back from us for a while, right? We've been recording with him for quite a while already at this stage. And all of a sudden he just pops up and the whole studio just erupts in laughter. It was fantastic. Because when you're filming these, everybody in the background, all the producers and equipment guy, the camera guy and the mic people and the sound people, they're all trying to be super, super quiet and not disrupt us and just let us talk. And so no one's moving, and because we'll catch that movement out of the corner of our eye kind of thing and get distracted. And no one's making any sound. And even if there's I don't know, a police car or something that goes by on the street, they have to stop us and let the siren go by and then start again. That's how sensitive the mics can be. And so when he says this and he drops this whole story about his plasterer's hammer, we all literally just the whole studio erupted. It was fantastic. And it was just a lot of fun. And that's, I think, when you're choosing a special guest for a podcast like that, you don't know what's going to walk in the door, right? You have no idea who this person is, what their personality is going to be, except for maybe what you've seen on TV or some other, some other way, right, that about them. So there's no way to really know how you're going to jive with that person. And Rav was one of those people that as soon as he sat down, we were instantly comfortable. Yes, fantastic. This guy's going to be great. And then as he started talking and telling the story, we just all died. It was just great. It was still one of my favorite ones.
I remember when our manager Thomas was at the recording, and he said that about how quiet everyone had to be. He was trying to take notes about what clips we can use for social. He was one finger typing so slowly, trying to get it holding a cough for about 90 minutes at a time, and just
I'm pretty sure at one point the sound guy looked at Thomas and was like, "Can you stop typing?"
Yeah, he said that. I sent him a message forgetting he was there. I think it was a video, and he was like, "I can't watch it. I'm in the podcast. What does it say?"
Do this right. Yeah.
I'm sure it's good, but what does the audio say?
Right.
It's funny. So yeah, we'll do some question of the weeks. We're going to do some quick fire questions before. So you said one there. So other than Rav's secret plaster past, what is your favorite moment of series one? Favorite moment.
Okay, yeah, that one I can actually answer because this one comes up for me a lot. There's an episode in which David Wilson pronounced the word tortoise. But he says tortoise. And I'd never heard that before. I didn't know that was a thing. And it took everything I had to not, again, just fall over myself. On the inside, I was don't screw up the recording. We're on a roll. We're doing really well. But I'd never heard tortoise before. So now, as the podcast gets a little bit more popular, and I have friends and family members and such around the US, this is not something that we ever hear. We've never, even Ellie right now is that's how I say it. I've never ever heard this before. So there's a brand new, so even at a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I had a friend who's another mom in the band program of all things. She's been listening and she's really enjoying the podcast, which is great. And she came up to me and she was like, tortoise. So it is now the way my family pronounces tortoise. Right? It's just been, and it's not. I'm not saying this in a way to like make fun of David or anything. I just had never heard it before, and it was a surprise. And so sometimes that accent thing, because he's got such a lovely Scottish accent, that I was just, like, sometimes he'll say something, and I have to sit and go, what is that word? What? Oh, okay, got it. like because I've never ever heard it before. And so yeah, tortoise was definitely one of my favorite moments of
Tortoise,
season
yeah.
for sure.
You're giving us all a complex now, because that's probably how everyone in the chat, apart from Ellen in Illinois, probably agrees with you. But I think everyone else probably says tortoise without even thinking about it. So
I will admit that after we finished recording that one, I privately went up to Maddie and I was like, "Can you explain this to me? Because I don't. Where did tortoise come from?" So
yeah, I'm trying to think of tortoise like in a sentence now, and tortoise,
yeah. No. I said, I learned something new with every case I work on.
Never mind the research side of things.
Yeah, right.
The British pronunciation of tortoise has been the biggest takeaway.
One of the biggest takeaways, for sure.
I need to think of a list of words that you might not have heard us say before that. Because
it also, like, it I feel like it's so much more fun, right? Like, we have this international team working on this podcast, like, truly, right? We have people from all over the place kind of coming together to make this podcast happen, and I think that's cool. I think it adds some flair. We will not talk about my attempt at French pronunciation in series 2, though. Like, we're just gonna
we don't have
right by that.
We need a French person. We've got enough every corner of the UK, Americans. Yeah,
we've got a Canadian working on it.
Yeah. I did French in high school, but
that was hard. That was tough.
I can tell you my name and the fact I live in Dundee, and that's about the extent of what I remember.
Yeah.
A couple more quick fire questions. So we've had 2 great special guests so far. You have a Series 3, Episode 1. You've got a blank checkbook.
Oh, man.
Who is the special guest for Series 3?
Oh, yeah, you're really putting me up on the spot right now.
I can't give you all the questions in advance.
Well, the thing is, I don't know a lot of, like, I don't know UK personalities, because
they can be American. Let's go international.
International. Anybody that I
celebrity, criminologist, historian, TV presenter.
Oh, man. You know what? I think I want someone who has been in the news world, like a reporter or a TV broadcaster or something, but like for a really long time. So like there's a handful of people, like a Walter Cronkite style. I don't know if that name it should be familiar to most people, but like someone like him that's been in news, the news world for like 20 or 30 years. And I don't even know that I care who it is or where they come from, but like someone with the perspective of the newspaper lens versus the criminology lens or the history lens, right? I think that would be interesting.
That'd be such a cool dynamic as well, with having you on the history, David on the criminology,
David and the crime,
and then we've got former editor of the Telegraph or whoever is in charge of the newspaper side of things. That'd be such a cool insight, like an
old school newspaper guy, right? Like someone with a notebook in his hand and like hit this, like walk to the crime
scene. Hat.
Yeah, exactly. Like
a trench coat.
Yes, that guy with a magnifying glass. I want that guy. Whoever that is.
The guy that was walking all over the crime scenes back in the day. And
that one. That's the guy.
That's it. We want them. And I had another quick fire question, but as quick as it arrived, it is gone out of my head. So, I guess we'll call the quick fire questions there.
That one.
Like I say, no, I'm going to try to think about it, but then the longer I'm just going to end up sitting in silence. So, we'll move on. We'll move on to question of the week, and if it comes to it, I'll put you on the spot one last time. There, but I just want to give you some backup. But like I say, Ellen in Illinois.
Thank you, Ellen. Yeah,
she backs you up, and she likes the podcast as well. So
thank you, Ellen.
All good. But I knew you'd have an ally in the chat somewhere there. Just gonna have a quick flick through, see if we've missed anything whilst we've been tortoising. Laurie saying loving the podcast,
thank you,
love
Laurie.
To hear it. Karen saying they're wonderful projects to research, and as we said on the link that I put in the chat, which I will just pop in again as well, there are newspaper collections for all of the episodes as well. So if you really want to disagree with Jen, you can jump into the evidence yourself and they
Please
decide
do.
if was justice served, and let us know on social, as Ellie has plugged. We are at Was Justice Served Podcast, Instagram and TikTok as well. And I think that's just about all the comments. Good stuff. So, question of the week was, do you have a criminal ancestor and what is their story? We will start with the very politely hand-raising Jen Baldwin.
I do.
Where do you want to kick us off?
I do, and we recorded it as a bonus episode on the podcast, so listen to that. I had to do the pitch. Archibald McKenzie got involved in some riots in Ireland and eventually immigrated into Wales and then over to the United States. But he has a fascinating story, and most of what I've learned about him comes from the newspaper. So, it's great.
Nice. And like you say, it was like a bonus episode?
It's a bonus episode
of series 1. So go back and listen to that.
Yeah.
That was actually the question was, where, if someone wants to listen to a one-off episode, where should they start? But listen to Jen's bonus episode.
It's probably the most genealogy-ish episode because it's just me. And it's not David. It's just me telling basically a genealogy research story that involve crime.
It might be a good toe in the water for our genealogy hardcore community here to get into the true crime side of things. So, listen to Jen's. That would be the last episode of series 1. Available wherever you get your podcast. But I feel like I've typed or said that phrase about 400 times since series 2 started alone. Available wherever you get your podcast. I need a keyboard shortcut that just inserts that phrase into captions for me. Just about every single clip on social, I've popped that in there somewhere. I really should just have it copy pasted by now, but what can you do? So let's have a look at question of the week. Jen, they are all in the starred folder on here if you want to pick any out, but we will start. Nicole was quick off the mark as ever before I even put it on screen, so we will start with her. She is a criminal ancestor. Her 3 times great-grandfather worked on a fairground as a gun proprietor. He was cleaning the gun and shot it off accidentally, killing a lad. It made the Welsh papers during it, but he was found not guilty when he was arrested. He was charged with manslaughter. So very interesting. And kind of like what we said about, or what David kind of alludes to in the podcast about having cases to refer to, that this has happened countless times. Obviously, not going to call it out by name, but a very famous actor involved in a certain case similar to this. So there's so much present day context around this now that would actually be a really good episode of Was Justice Served. I think there'd be a lot of modern day context and cases to refer to. And
Nicole, really we would love to know your ancestor's name and maybe send us a link to a clipping or something. That sounds really intriguing. Pop it
on. I'm just going to edit this very quickly and hope that I've got the right email address. But drop us it to pr@findmypast.com if you are interested, Nicole, and you can let us know some more details on that, and like I say, include some nice comments, and hopefully we can get series 3 and you might be involved, because like I say, that would be a fascinating one. Who else do we have?
I'm gonna just throw Gina's up on the screen really quick because this one's so common, right? Like, distant ancestor transported to Australia for larceny, later gets released and continues his life in Australia. Thousands and thousands of them, sadly, unfortunately, but in some cases it worked out. But the thing I think it's worth noting here is the crime itself, right? It's larceny, and he gets separated from his family and shipped across the world for the rest of his life. There's a case that I found a snippet for in the newspapers. It was a 7-year-old boy who got caught and was found guilty of pickpocketing, and he got shipped and he got transported to Australia for pickpocketing. And probably just trying to survive, right? But oh gosh, the transportation thing is something we haven't yet covered on the podcast, but I think it would be really interesting to delve into. And it's just such a big story that impacted so many people.
Yeah, and we did a post about the record set that has the mugshots in it.
Oh yeah,
We
yeah.
did a post on Facebook about that not too long ago. And yes, so many of the comments are saying about the ridiculous things that their ancestors were sent across the world for doing. And it's just to even some of them to even get hard jail time would be punished, would be a ridiculous punishment. But to think they were just shipped off to Australia to kind of just left there to start again after it is just, yeah.
And we think about Australia when we think about transportation, but they actually shipped to the colonies in what is now the United States and Canada before Australia. It was a lot cheaper, right? But then once the American Revolution started, they couldn't do that anymore. So they switched everybody to Australia.
You mean you weren't accepting our criminals anymore after you got independence?
No.
Fair enough. This is quite similar to one of the cases in Was Justice Served, actually. Gillian came across a newspaper for her 3 times great-grandmother's death. Her son-in-law came home one evening intoxicated, started an argument with her, and pushed her so hard she fell over and banged her head and died as a result. He was accused of her murder and jailed for it. And as I say, that is very similar to, I think, both
this week's episode.
Series. This week's episode, yeah. Both series have had a suspicious pushing, have they?
Yeah, there was one in series 1 where the woman was found dead at the bottom of the stairs, and the partner, not technically a husband, but the partner was found guilty of the murder. But in that case, they think it was like fully intentional. Like
this is maybe a different one. Maybe another one Was Justice Served. Should he have been jailed for it? Who else do we have? We've got a lot of mentions of bigamy. That is sounds strange to call it a popular one, but yeah, bigamy was very popular. Whenever we do a post on Facebook or in the Facebook forum about criminal ancestors, bigamy is probably the most common crime, I would say, that comes up in there as well. So that is a big one. But if you do want to hear more, Karen is doing a talk about it at the Secrets and Lies conference about her second cousin 3 times removed bigamy and fraud. So that's a different angle. That could be a juicy one there. So all the best with the talk, Karen. We're still giving out free promo. I know I said I'm going to stop it, but it's Karen. Karen deserves all the promo, so she
Karen
can
deserves
get
every promo.
Go to Karen's talk. What else have we got? We've got time for 2 more. Any calling out to you, Jen?
There's Kim's got this great one for arsenic poisoning.
Oh, yeah, I love Kim's
4 times great granny. I have on top. After the arsenic poisoning, actually, 3 times great grandfather who had 46 misdemeanors and 2 jail terms for larceny. Kleptomaniac, second great aunt, and a 4th great granduncle in a gang. Kim, we probably should talk about what you're doing these days. Like, I'm just feels like there's a pattern in the family. No, I'm just kidding. 46 misdemeanors is wild. That's crazy. But what a paper trail to follow.
I mean, 40. That's Does that even fit in one newspaper collection?
From a researcher perspective, I'm like really excited for you, but at the same time, like I don't.
Maybe Was Justice Served Series 3 is just Kim's family tree. Actually, it's just all the various stories from Kim's family tree. I always love. We've heard a couple times. I've seen it on the forum quite recent as well. But yeah, Kim's arsenic story is always an interesting one to hear about. I do like that one. Just having a look to see.
Oh, Kim responded, "Nose clean, head down. They're getting caught."
No, that's the difference, Kim. The ancestors were caught, but you're still here. So that's you've learned from your ancestors' mistakes. Good stuff. So I think we will call it there. We are 1 minute to the hour. A final plug for Was Justice Served. Episode 5 is out at the moment. All the previous episodes are available wherever you get your podcast. There will be, I think it's 3 more episodes, maybe 2 more episodes coming out. But as Jen said, if you turn your notifications on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're getting your podcasts, have a look. We put a post up every time there's a new episode as well. So follow the socials on there. Follow Jen, follow David Wilson, follow Rav Wildin, follow Was Justice Served, follow Findmypast.
Follow it. Like, wow. Your social media is getting away with you, I think.
We've done so much plugging. I just want my own plug. I want something to plug.
I will say that, so this week's episode is part 1 of a 2-part series. This is the first time we've done a series on the show. So next week's episode is kind of the second half, right? Of delving into kind of that particular type of crime in that location and how it was perceived by the newspapers and the public and how the courts reacted. So if you want to pay attention to next week's, make sure you listen to this week's, because they go together.
Absolutely. I will do one last link. You can find out more about this week's episode in there, and there's a Spotify link, there's a collection link, and there is the poll as well. Definitely let us know on the poll. But as we said, give us your feedback on the podcast as well. If you want to comment on the socials, send us a private message, whatever the case may be, then let us know. Jen, thank you as always. Like I say, I will 4 weeks time, I'll see what I can rope you in to speak about there as well. I might be on holiday in 4 weeks, I can't quite remember, but
I'll just make sure of it now.
Yeah, I saw your annual leave for next week, but I'll be keeping a close eye on that calendar for the 12th of October. But otherwise, we'll finish off with some words of wisdom on brand from Lloyd. Have a good weekend and stay out the clinker, Kim especially. But thank you all for joining us again. Been a great live. Jen will be back in 2 weeks' time, and then it should be Ellie and me in 4 weeks. So you've got 8 weeks to book annual leave and figure out why you need a Friday afternoon off, so you don't need to be on here with me again. But until then, we will see you all very soon. Thank you all very much again for joining, and have a lovely weekend.